Let's get educated. That's why we're here, to bring you the stories impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses. It's time for a little education.
Hello, everyone. I am Katie Patrick. Welcome to today's show. And guess who's here? You know who he is.
I'm with you.
He's Mr. David Fiorazzo, and he's been around all week. And for weeks on end, he just won't go away. But that's a good thing.
I refuse to go away.
He refuses. He's glued to that chair almost. And he was here this morning because he was doing Worldview Matters. What happened today on Worldview Matters?
Today's guest, New Yorker, Pam Walk, and she's an author of a book called Bridge of Love, 30 True Stories of Faith in Action. She is a stage 4 lung cancer survivor. And talk about a strong woman of God. She actually went to Dallas Theological Seminary. She quit her job. She was a physical therapist for her profession. And man, she just went full on into the ministry. And now she is just an amazing evangelist. And she's got a heart for people who are lost. And man, it was a blessing. It's always inspiring talking to people like this. But you can subscribe to the updates, friends. Please do that at worldviewmatters.tv.
All right, well, before we get started, just a little quick reminder here that if you enjoy the video platform Rumble, we are now uploading all of our episodes of Educated and Worldview Matters to our new channel right over there on Rumble. So please visit rumble.com/FreedomProject and then give it a little follow so you can see what is happening around all these parts and what David's been up to mostly.
Hey! Guess who's going to be my guest on Worldview Matters in a week or two? Mr. Alex Newman.
I was going to guess that.
Yeah, that's right. And it's that time of week here on Educated to check in with him and find out what story he has to share with us this week. Hello, Alex.
Hey, guys. Great to be here. Thank you for having me. And so big news, good news, an update. We reported on an effort by lawmakers in Tennessee to create a task force that would look at how and if it would be a good idea for Tennessee to end federal funding of its education system and then also end federal control over its public schools. Well, they are moving ahead with that now. Just this week, they appointed a panel of lawmakers onto this task force who are supposed to look at how they can free their state from federal control of government. And that means also, of course, cutting off the funding. And really, this move could be a role model for states all across the country that are trying to protect the children in their state from the increasingly out of control Biden administration. Obviously, the far left Democrats, most of whom represent districts where kids can't read, can't write, where violence is out of control and crime, they are whining about this. Oh, we need the federal money. We need the federal government to keep controlling our schools. And of course, that has done so good for the children of these districts that less than 1/3 of them can read or write or do math or anything like that. But a lot of conservatives and a lot of Republicans were very hopeful about this, very optimistic about this. They see federal influence and control over classrooms as unconstitutional, dangerous, and ridiculous. The 10-member panel that they appointed this week is going to try to figure out how they can last without this $2 billion from U.S. taxpayers. It's about 10% of the total they spend on education. But one of the things that has come up over and over again, a lot of lawmakers have talked about this. If they cut the federal funds, they cut the federal regulations and controls, and they might even actually save money by not having to comply with these crazy federal regulations. One of the lawmakers on the panel, Senator Joey Hensley, actually said he supported ending the federal ties on education if the federal government was mandating policies that lawmakers did not think were needed. He said if they're causing us to spend more money than we are receiving from the federal government and we are not receiving benefits that we couldn't provide for ourselves, then I think we should reject it, which is, of course, a very sensible solution. So by January of next year, 2024, this it's called the Joint Working Group on Federal Education Funding. They're supposed to provide a recommendation to the legislature and to the government there on how the state can stop taking money from the Biden administration. It's chaired by the chairs of the House and Senate Education Committees. It seems to have support from the governor and the lieutenant governor as well. Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally, he's a Republican who helped set up the panel. He said it was important to consider this. He said federal dollars and various mandates and restrictions that come with those dollars affect the way Tennessee's children are educated. Duh. Due to our state's excellent financial position, this is a worthy subject of examination and study. In fact, I would say even if you didn't have a good financial position, do you really want Biden, the child sniffer, educating your children? I would say probably not, right? Do you really want Miguel Cardona, who thinks that parents are not the primary stakeholders in the education of their own children? Do you really want these people overseeing the education of your children. I would suspect that most parents don't think that's a good idea. But Democrats, like I said, are absolutely in a rage. They're foaming at the mouth. Senate Minority Leader Raumesh Akbari literally represents one of the most violent and uneducated districts in the country, down in Memphis, says that the harsh consequences of rejecting this $1.8 billion cannot be overstated. What was not stated was how the situation could possibly be any worse than it already is in Akbari's district. Governor and the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, were both in support. And lawmakers in other states that we have talked to in Oklahoma, South Carolina, are considering similar proposals. Obviously, this will not stop all of the problems in education, especially government education. But it's an obvious no-brainer, right? The states and the people never delegated any powers to the U.S. government over education. The Constitution that created the federal government does not grant those powers to the federal government, and therefore, if you read it, it says all powers that are not delegated to the United States in this Constitution are reserved to the states or the people. In other words, federal involvement at all in education is totally unconstitutional. So kudos to Tennessee. They can lead the way here in getting out of control federal bureaucrats just completely out of our classrooms. Other states will definitely follow suit. And this is really important, folks, and the media is not really talking about it. So stay tuned. We'll bring you updates.
In Missouri, a biological male beat out several females last week for the title of homecoming queen at a Kansas City high school. But it wasn't the first time. In Pennsylvania, high school students said enough and walked out in protest when school administrators refused to keep males out of female restrooms. And in Wisconsin, a drag queen teacher allegedly lured students to his drag content on social media that included almost nudity and a lot of sexuality. More on this in a minute. I'm David Fiorazzo, and this is Christ and Culture. So, are we finally beginning to see a little more pushback and resistance to this nonsense? Let's start with the good news first, all right? In Perkiomen Valley School District in Pennsylvania, hundreds of students organized a walkout protest during class last Friday after the school board refused to enact a policy requiring transgender students to use the restroom corresponding with their biological sex. Keeping boys out of the girls' restroom seems like a no-brainer, but then again, this is 2023. Franklin Graham responded and said this: "These high school students said enough is enough. They want the Pennsylvania School District to see that their own rights, their privacy, and their safety have been ignored. More parents and students need to stand up to the agenda-driven bullies." In a Fox News interview, students were upset, and boys wanting to protect girls took charge simply because girls don't want to share their bathroom with biological males. Some parents also weighed in, saying the safety of females is important and these students should be commended. This is about sanity, science, biology, privacy, and protecting our children. It's amazing more people don't seem to see this. Several students have spoken with local media, saying they're uncomfortable sharing their restroom with boys and said they don't think their voices are being heard. They feel their rights are not as important as those identifying as transgender. The mother of one student, Melanie Marin, said this:
"They are making these policies without taking into consideration how they affect the students and how uncomfortable it is just to be a teenager in general, but now have to be faced with, the invasion of their privacy in those areas where they should feel safe and private."
All right, next question. Do men make the best women? I know that sounds silly. It used to be that men could only be drag queens, but now more males are winning beauty contests and they're being crowned homecoming queens. Men are winning races, track meets, excelling in other sports where girls used to compete against girls. In Kansas City, Missouri, the leftist patriarchy strikes again as the school crowned Tristan Young homecoming queen, trampling on the hopes of teenage girls, one of whom would have rightly won. It happened at Oak Park High School. So let's clarify. A boy in a dress and makeup was crowned For the second time in 8 years at this school, athlete, speaker, and former NCAA swimming star Riley Gaines commented on Young's homecoming queen status on social media. Gaines, who lost a national title to a biological male swimmer, Leah Thomas, responded on X or Twitter to the fiasco. She said this: "So stunning and brave. Another reminder to all girls that men make the best women. I wonder if a female will win homecoming king, or if it's understood that both of these spots are reserved for males. Who's to blame here?" Gaines also rightly criticized the uber woke sports network, ESPN, for celebrating Women's History Month by doing a special about, that's right, a man, swimmer Leah Thomas. Gaines wrote that ESPN was spineless because, quote, he destroyed real women in the pool. I spoke with former transgender Laura Perry Smaltz 2 weeks ago on Worldview Matters, and concerned for the souls of those vulnerable kids and those struggling with gender issues, she said, "I don't want to make the road to hell more comfortable by affirming them." Boom. Looking at the cringeworthy photos from the homecoming ceremony, it makes you wonder if the girls who lost the crown to a boy were happy for him and think it's okay that they're now losing opportunities to males. There's too much pressure on these kids, these young teenagers today, so who will speak up for them? I think they're more afraid of maybe being called transphobic or hateful or non-supportive. Finally, let's go to Green Bay, Wisconsin, where an area school district has a new PR nightmare. His name is Bryce Thomas Van Vrede, who goes by Novocaine when he's in drag. But he's a special education teacher at Pulaski High School by day. Thankfully, libs of TikTok obtained photos during their off hours and asked what kind of person would deliberately expose children to imagery like this. In one picture, he's almost naked except for apparently a duct tape thong. Well, one of the parents said, quote, "You can say till you're blue in the face that he's not grooming kids. But if you're directing them to your Instagram, that's inaccurate. The fact that he put everything to private after this was mentioned, he knew what he was doing was wrong." Another parent claimed Van Vrede told students his social media account handles for Instagram and TikTok, which exposed minors to some actually shocking and disturbing images. As all this became known, Van Vrede changed his social media accounts at that time to private. Now, for Halloween, he posed in leather shorts and a harness and a whip, as the caption read, "Sorry, Mom." According to a source with libs of TikTok, when the school administration first caught wind one of its teachers allegedly was grooming students, they just claimed that what he was doing it on his own time. That was his business, right? It didn't affect his, quote, professional role. Wow. So parents also claim they were ignored by Pulaski High School in Wisconsin, their administration, when they tried to confront them about Van Vrede's behavior and sharing accounts with students. Now, lest you think this is an isolated case, libs of TikTok have reported on many teachers who boast about sexualizing children and their agendas in the classroom. Now, if it's not LGBTQ plus issues, it's Marxism. And make no mistake, this is not limited to the classroom. Parents now must examine curriculum, school policies, libraries, sports, and a lot more. Better yet, since schools are on fire, get your children out while there's still time. God bless you and keep speaking the truth about things that matter.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on pristine quality bedding, towels, slippers, signature pillows, and much more when you use the code EDUCATED. That's EDUCATED. Educated. Support this show and a great American company.
Hello, America. Welcome to One Nation. I'm your host, Dr. Jake Jacobs. Here we go again. The fearmongers are on steroids. Just recently, the Marxist head of the United Nations declared that it's no longer global warming, it's global boiling. Now, I want to run through quickly some headlines of just the last few months that are trying to scare the bejeebies out of the American people. In the month of July, we've only got it was the hottest month. July was the hottest month in 120 years. There's some other ones where the European Union says that we're in the midst of dire consequences because July was the hottest month ever recorded in not only human history, but going back 120,000 years, right? And then look at the European Union. It's to the point now where the European Union is working with that nut job Bill Gates to actually block the sun. And you know who was going along with that? Is the President of the United States of America, Joe Biden. Look at this. The White House floats the idea of blocking out the sun. You can't make this stuff up, people. This is loonbird lefty climate boiling idiocy at its worst. Some people would say it's finest, but at its worst. So from climate to COVID, I would argue that this whole thing is all about the mass psychology of fear, of groupthink, of group fear, of group guilt. In fact, the Communist Chinese Party, I call the virus the CCP virus because they are quintessential, perfect Marxist propagandists who use the virus as the way to put fear not only into the people of Europe and of Asia, but of the United States of America. During the whole fiasco from day one, they lied to the American people. And the media, the Chinese propagandist media was actually being used by the AP, Associated Press, and other media outlets in the United States. And they were all over the place with discombobulated disinformation and misinformation about masks and lockdowns and no alternative treatments. The moment Senator Ron Johnson of the great state of Wisconsin dared to have other doctors, other scientists, other experts mention, discuss, debate about other alternative medicines and therapies, they were attacked, they were maligned, they were ridiculed, they were called, science deniers, et cetera, et cetera. And it's unbelievable where big farm, Johnson & Johnson and Moderna and Pfizer, we know they're making literally millions and billions of dollars. We're demanding that people who would dare to discuss or debate other alternative viewpoints would be censored, would be shut down. I can remember when we were shut down, it was March 16th, here in the state of Wisconsin of 2020. The reason I remember, I was all set to go to the local McGinnis Irish pub for a nice Guinness that day, but we couldn't go because everything was shut down. And they said it was only going to last, about 15 days. And then the next thing you know is there was all this fear about it being 3.4% mortality rate. It could get as high as, 4% mortality rate, and on and on and on. And then all of a sudden they realized, wait a minute, this is actually it's way less than 1% mortality rate. Some people from Stanford and other universities were saying it was as low as 0.2. But when you watch the media, they understood the mass psychology of fear. They wanted us to be afraid. So then the government mandates and dictates coming from whether it be the president or coming from Governor Cuomo or Governor Whitmer of Michigan or Newsom of California, when they were telling us what we had to do, they ultimately were using it for control. Now, I have taught my students for years and years and years, going back to the 1970s, you need to trust but not verify. Trust but verify. You need to learn to discern the information that's out there. Don't be duped and fooled by the news media that's out there. Be aware of propagandists, their propagandistic agenda. Watchers beware. Listeners beware. Guys, there is so much more to say, but for the rest of the story, watch the full episode of One Nation.
If you have a smartphone, tablet, Roku, or Apple TV, consider downloading the FreedomProject Media app. It's 100% free and includes all of our weekly shows, plus lecture series, archive programs, and award-winning animated videos for families like the Presidential Minute, Battles of America, and Heroes of the West. Don't rely on the social media giants to keep you informed. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app from your app store and allow notifications. And we'll let you know when a new video is ready.
All right, friends, I'm just going to say it.
Ooh.
Some kinds of modern are just weird. And one Danish artist thought he would take it to the next logical conclusion by unveiling 2 pieces entitled Take the Money and Run. But now the artist is being forced to repay tens of thousands of dollars. Why, you ask? Well, let's find out together. Watch.
We're talking about the Kunsten Museum of Modern Art in Denmark's Aalborg. In 2021, it had commissioned 2 pieces, and Danish artist Jens Hanning was paid upfront for them. How much? A whopping $86,000. He was asked to recreate 2 of his previous works, 2010's An Average Danish Annual Income and 2007's An Average Austrian Annual Income. Both works used cold, hard cash and showed average incomes of the 2 countries. They gained a lot of popularity. Now Hanning was asked to recreate the concept. Instead, when he delivered the work, it wasn't quite what the museum had expected. Hanning gave the museum 2 blank canvases. Guess what they were titled? Take the Money and Run. The museum had mixed reactions. The director of the museum says that when he first saw it, he laughed. He knows that Hanning is known for his humoristic touch, but once that feeling had passed, the director said it was a wake-up call. They wondered where the money went because they couldn't see it reflect in the pieces. After all, there's a fine line between being touched by humor and being straight up pranked. So Hanning was taken to court, and now it's payback time. But he doesn't need to pay all of it back. Hanning has to return about $75,000 of the $86,000. He gets to keep the money that's dedicated towards his artist's fee and mounting costs. This is as bizarre as it gets. The museum got played and had to pay him a fee anyway.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
That's
funny. That's just funny because I find modern art to just be a bleep show. It's a bleep show. It's
a freak show.
There you go. All the words.
Show.
It's whatever I
it's nonsensical.
Imagine it to be.
Do you know?
Is that good art? So I just find it hilarious.
Do you know that is actually one of the communist goals from 1948 to get into American society and just create the most bizarre items or figures or objects, and call it art.
Like bananas on the wall?
To make it nonsensical. And that is actually one of the communist goals. Look those up.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this man is a big fan of the Steve Miller Band, because Take the Money and Run. That's there you go. He still made out in this deal, so that's always good. Although I wonder how much his lawyer fees were for that whole lawsuit. But he had the canvas, gave it to them, and said, "Here's my art." That's what's passing these days anyway. So I honestly don't know why they sued him. Because see what you liked before. Anyway, well, in a press release that was sent by the artist, Jan says that the idea behind it was to show how salaries can be used to measure the value of work and to show national differences within the European Union. The work is that I have taken their money. It's not theft. It is breach of contract, and breach of contract is part of the work. You see what he did there? He just circled around it. Now, either way, he has now been ordered to return that $75K to the museum after submitting those 2 blank canvases. So again, I say he still made out in the end on this one.
Yeah. Yep.
I tell you, it's all good stuff. All right, well, that is going to wrap up everything we're doing around here for the week. I hope you enjoyed it. David, did you enjoy it?
Always fun.
Always fun. Now, don't forget, you can catch Educated on the go by simply subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform. And if you are in the mood,
there's an app for that.
You can just send us your feelings by leaving us first a 5-star rating and then writing about all your feelings in the section if you want to. That's up to you.
Well, for Katie and myself, thanks for watching, listening, supporting, sharing the show. Thank you very much. And until next week, stay educated, America.